The glass walls of Soren Voss's penthouse office shattered my reflection as I stepped out of the elevator. I'd never been this high up in a building before, 68 floors above Manhattan, where the air felt thinner and the people below looked like specks of dust on a chessboard. His secretary, a statuesque blonde in a tailored suit, didn't even look up from her screen as I approached. "Mr. Thorne," she said, somehow knowing who I was without looking. "Mr. Voss is expecting you. Go right in." I straightened my slightly wrinkled button-down shirt, suddenly painfully aware of how out of place I was. My knockoff designer watch felt like a toy compared to the Rolex I'd glimpsed on her wrist. With a deep breath, I pushed through the heavy mahogany doors. Soren Voss stood with his back to me, hands clasped behind him as he gazed out at the skyline. His suit probably cost more than my entire year's salary at the tech startup, where I'd been grinding away for the past 3 years. He didn't turn when I entered. "Quentin Thorne," he said, his voice smooth as expensive bourbon. "Thank you for coming on such short notice. Your offer didn't really leave room for declining," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. $20,000 just to have a meeting is hard to turn down. He turned in, a slight smile playing on his lips. Wow, even I could see why Maeve had fallen for him. Tall, with perfect teeth, and the kind of confidence that comes from never having to worry about money a day in your life. "Please, have a seat." He gestured to a leather chair that probably cost more than my car. I sat down, feeling the butter-soft leather yield beneath me. "So what's this about?" "Your message wasn't exactly detailed." Voss walked to his desk, opened a drawer, and pulled out a check. He placed it face down on the glass tabletop between us and slid it toward me. "I'll get straight to the point, Quentin. I want to buy you out of Maeve's life." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. 3 months since Maeve had walked out of our shared apartment, and now this. The billionaire wanting to erase me completely. "Buy me out," I repeated, trying to process what he meant. "Yes." He sat down across from me, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. "Maeve told me about your history. 6 years is a long time. You were college sweethearts, built a life together. I understand there are still entanglements. Entanglements. Like our relationship had been some kind of business arrangement. Like the thousands of photos, the memories, the future we'd planned could be dissolved with a signature." "Funny," I said, finding my voice again. She didn't mention any entanglements when she packed her bags and left. Soren's expression didn't change. "Turn over the check, Quentin." I flipped it over. The number made my vision blur for a moment. $10 million. "What the heck is this?" I whispered. "It's a fresh start," Soren said, leaning back in his chair. "For all of us. You sign an NDA about your relationship with Maeve, agree to no contact, and move on with your life. $10 million buys a lot of new memories." I stared at the check, then back at him. "Does Maeve know about this?" A flicker of something, discomfort crossed his face. "This is between us. Men handling a situation." I almost laughed. "So no, she doesn't." He stood up, walking back to the window. "Maeve and I are getting married next month. Small ceremony, very exclusive. I want her to start our life together without baggage." Baggage. That's what I am now. 6 years reduced to unwanted luggage. "And what if I refuse?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. He turned, and now his smile had an edge. "Then you go back to your $85,000 a year job developing apps that will never see the light of day, living in your 1-bedroom in Brooklyn, while Maeve lives here with me. Either way, you lose her. But one path makes you a millionaire." I stood up, tucking the check into my pocket. "I'll think about it." As I reached the door, his voice stopped me. "Don't take too long, Quentin. This offer expires in 48 hours. The subway ride back to Brooklyn felt surreal. $10 million. Enough to fund my own startup. Enough to never worry about rent again. All I had to do was erase 6 years of my life, and the only woman I'd ever truly loved. I unlocked the door to my apartment, immediately confronted by the echoing emptiness Maeve had left behind. Half the furniture gone, blank spaces on walls where her art had hung. I kept her coffee mug, though, the one with the chip in the handle that she'd refused to throw away because it had character. I pulled out my phone, my thumb hovering over her name. No contact for 3 months, and now I had the sudden urge to break the silence. But what would I say? Hey, your billionaire fiancé just tried to buy me off. Instead, I pulled up a different contact. Darius? Yeah, it's me. Listen, I need you to run a background check on someone named Soren Voss. Darius Cho, my college roommate turned corporate lawyer, had resources I didn't. And something about Voss's offer felt wrong. Nobody offers $10 million just to smooth the path to marriage. There was more to this story. 2 hours later, my suspicion was confirmed when Darius called back. Quentin, this guy isn't just rich, he's ruthless, Darius said, his voice tense. 3 hostile takeovers in the past year alone. He's got a reputation for identifying promising startups, offering partnerships, then gutting them and absorbing their assets. What does that have to do with me? I asked, confused. Darius hesitated. Didn't you tell me Maeve was working on some kind of breakthrough algorithm before you two split? The pieces clicked together with sickening clarity. Maeve's algorithm, the one she'd been developing for years. A revolutionary approach to predictive analytics that could transform how companies forecast market trends. She'd been close to a breakthrough when she left. Had refused to let me see her latest work, saying she needed to protect her intellectual property. Jesus, I muttered. He's not after Maeve. He's after her work. Probably both, Darius said. But I bet my license that this algorithm is the real prize. Has she patented it yet? I don't know, I admitted. We weren't exactly on speaking terms when she left. After hanging up, I sat in the dark of my apartment, staring at the check in my hands. $10 million to walk away. But if Soren was using Maeve for her work, could I really just take the money and disappear? I made my decision and picked up my phone. Café Lucien was where Maeve and I had our first date 6 years ago. It seemed fitting to meet her here now. I arrived early, claiming our old spot by the window. When she walked in, my heart lurched painfully in my chest. She looked different. Designer clothes, expensive highlights in her hair. But her eyes were the same, uncertain as they landed on me, then warming as she approached. Quentin, she said, sliding in the seat across from me. This is unexpected. Thanks for coming, I replied, pushing a coffee toward her, prepared exactly how she liked it. She took it, a small smile playing at her lips as she recognized her old order. Your message was cryptic. Urgent matter regarding Soren. What's going on? I pulled out the check and placed it on the table. Maeve's eyes widened as she registered the amount. What is this? She asked, her voice barely audible. Your fiancé's attempt to buy me out of your life. I kept my voice neutral, complete with an NDA and a no-contact agreement. Her face was drained of color. He did what? That's not all. I continued, pulling out the folder Darius had sent over. He's been systematically targeting tech companies with promising IP, buying them out, sometimes marrying them. She shook her head. No, that's just business. Soren's a businessman. Maeve, I said gently, when did he first approach you about your algorithm? Her eyes snapped to mine. How did you? You were close to a breakthrough when you left. The timing seems convenient. She stared at me for a long moment, then down at the check. I met him at that tech conference in San Francisco, right after I'd filed the provisional patent. The patent only he knew about. I pressed. I could see the calculations happening behind her eyes, memories being re-examined. He was so interested in my work, asked all the right questions, understood the implications immediately, and then asked you to dinner. I finished for her. Maeve looked out the window, her expression hardening. You think I'm naive? That I fell for a pretty face and a bank account? No, I said honestly. I think you fell for someone who recognized your brilliance and showed it the appreciation it deserved. Something I probably failed to do. That caught her off guard. She looked back at me, surprised. I was so caught up in my own projects, I continued. I didn't see how groundbreaking your work was becoming. He did. Quentin. But I have to ask. I interrupted. Has he asked you to sign anything? Transferring rights to your work, perhaps. The slight widening of her eyes told me everything. He said it was standard for married couples in his position. Asset consolidation. I pushed the check toward her. And there it is. She shoved it back. This doesn't prove anything. Soren loves me. Maybe he does. I conceded. But $10 million says there's something else he wants too. The next day, I returned to Soren Voss's office tower. This time, I bypassed his secretary with a nod, not bothering to wait for permission before pushing through his office doors. He was on the phone, but hung up when he saw me. "Quentin, I wasn't expecting you until tomorrow." I tossed the check onto his desk. "I'm not taking your money." His expression darkened. "Don't be a fool. $10 million is more than you'll see in a lifetime." "Probably," I agreed. "But I didn't come here to negotiate." I pulled out my phone and hit play on a recording app. Maeve's voice filled the room. "Soren, I need to understand. Why would you try to buy Quentin's silence?" There was a pause, then Soren's voice. "It's complicated, Maeve. There are aspects of business that sometimes require unconventional approaches, like marrying me to get my algorithm." Soren's face went rigid as he listened to himself stumble through denials that grew weaker as Maeve pressed him. I stopped the recording. "The rest gets pretty ugly. Lots of specifics about how you targeted her, how you've done this before. The lawyer I consulted says it's a clear pattern of corporate espionage and fraud." "How dare you?" Soren hissed, rising from his chair. "You recorded her without consent. That's illegal in New York." I shrugged. "Actually, she recorded you. I'm just a messenger." He lunged for my phone, but I stepped back. "Careful. This has already been uploaded to the cloud, and to several journalists who would love a story about the predatory practices of Soren Voss Enterprises." "What do you want?" he demanded, his composure cracking. "Simple," I replied. "You leave Maeve alone. Completely. No contact, no retaliation, no attempts to acquire her work through other channels. Or what? You'll destroy my reputation." He laughed bitterly. "I've weathered worse storms." "Maybe," I conceded. "But are you willing to risk federal charges?" "Because my lawyer friend thinks the FBI would be very interested in your pattern of acquiring intellectual property through deceptive practices." He stared at me, calculating. "You're bluffing. Try me." I held his gaze. "Oh, and one more thing. You're going to fund Maeve's startup. 20 million, no strings attached, no equity stake." "This is extortion," he snarled. "This is karma," I corrected. "You tried to buy me. Turns out, I'm not for sale. Neither is she." 3 weeks later, I was in my apartment packing when my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Maeve standing there, looking both familiar and somehow new. "Hey," she said simply. "Hey yourself," I replied, standing aside to let her in. "How's the startup coming along?" She walked in, taking in the boxes. "Moving day." I nodded. "Got a place in Manhattan." Turns out Soren Voss wasn't the only investor interested in my app design. Once word got out that he tried to buy me off, 3 venture capital firms reached out. She smiled, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. "So, we're both getting fresh starts." "Looks that way." We stood in awkward silence for a moment before she spoke again. "I never thank you properly. For the recording, for confronting him." "You don't need to thank me," I said honestly. "I didn't do it to be the hero." "Then why did you do it?" she asked, her eyes searching mine. "You could have taken the money, Quentin. $10 million to walk away." I consider my answer carefully. Because some things aren't for sale. Your work, your talent, they deserve to be recognized on your terms, not stolen. She stepped closer. "And us? What about what we had?" The question hung in the air between us, loaded with 6 years of history and 3 months of silence. "What we had was real," I finally said. "But right now, I think we both need to focus on rebuilding." Separately, pain flashed across her face, but she nodded. "Is that really what you want?" I looked around at the half-packed apartment, at the spaces where her things used to be. "I think it's what we need. You're about to launch a company that could change the world. And I'm finally getting recognition for my work, too. Timing was always our problem, wasn't it?" She reached out, her fingers lightly touching my hand. "And if the timing is ever right." I turned my hand over, briefly clasping hers. "Then we'll know where to find each other." She smiled then, a real smile that reached her eyes. "The coffee shop? Where else?" I returned her smile. She let go of my hand and walked to the door. Before leaving, she turned. "You know what's ironic? Soren had all that money, but you're the one who showed me what real value looks like. Some currencies don't fit in bank accounts." After she left, I stood in the quiet apartment, feeling lighter than I had in months. Not because I won her back. I hadn't tried to, but because I'd remembered who I was. The kind of person who couldn't be bought. My phone pinged with an email notification. Another investor interested in my app. I smiled, thinking about how quickly things had changed. 3 months ago, I was a heartbroken developer with a stalled career. Now I was fielding offers from the biggest names in tech. Soren Voss had tried to buy me out of Maeve's life. Instead, he'd accidentally launched both our careers. Sometimes revenge isn't about getting even. Sometimes it's about proving your worth, to yourself most of all. I picked up Maeve's chipped coffee mug, carefully wrapping it in paper before placing it in a box labeled important. Not because I was holding on to the past, but because some things are worth preserving. Some memories deserve to be carried forward. Maybe someday, when we'd both built the lives we were meant to have, there would be space for new memories too. Until then, I had a company to build and a future to create. On my own terms, unbought and unbowed. As for Maeve, she would always be the one that got away. But now, at least, she got away on her own terms too, not as someone's acquisition, but as a force to be reckoned with. And that was a victory worth far more than $10 million.